What is going on, NPL fans? You have Matty Brolic here, aka Matty Omega, here with you all today to do something a little bit reckless. I actually just met up with the legend himself, Cheese Boy 628, in person a little while ago, and I figured because we're in the NPL spirit, why not record my draft analysis on the drive home? So I'm currently stuck in nearly bumper to bumper traffic. I've been in the car for over 2 hours and about 15 minutes now. So I figured I could probably squeeze in my draft analysis because my laptop doesn't want to cooperate, so I cannot record it on there until I get a new one, which will be very soon. Don't you all worry. So without further ado, NPL Season 7 right around the corner, and we have recently completed our draft. So I will be getting into what I drafted, why, and my thoughts on this season, etc., etc. Probably won't be as in-depth as usual because I am sitting in my car trying to record myself. So anyway, the Los Angeles Reshirams. We are no longer the St. Louis Reshirams because Danza and his LA Nido Kings have dropped out this season, so we do have room for an LA team. So I was able to move from St. Louis to LA, just like the actual Los Angeles Rams, rather. So with that being said, we were given the 14th pick this season out of 16 teams. So not the worst ever. It's not the best either, though. Reason being is because we were only allowed to pick a max total of 11 Pokemon. And when there is an odd number of Pokemon, then the earlier draft picks are always benefited from that format because they get an earlier pick round 1 and round 11, which is the last round. So 14 is bad in that regard, but what I do like about pick 14 is that it's close to the wheel pick. So when I make a pick at number 14, I get also pick number, I believe, 18. So that is pretty cool. It's kind of hard to get sniped in between that little window. So yeah, I did what I had to do to try to make it work, and I think we're gonna have some fun this season, ladies and gentlemen. So just gotta let this guy squeeze, and yeah, for the first pick of the Los Angeles Reshirams of NPL Season 7, we decided to take Scolipede. Now, Scolipede is not a very common round 1 pick, and that's very understandable because it is a fantastic Pokemon, no doubt about it, but there are just a bunch of other mons that are, I guess, more powerful, more bulky. They excel at more things than Scolipede. Scolipede does excel at a few different things, but not like something, say, Mew, Kyurem Black, Jirachi, Manaphy, good megas like Lopunny, Gardevoir. But I really wanted Scolipede for a specific reason. Number one, and pretty much the main reason, is being the ability to pass speed, because the team that I wanted to draft this time around is definitely not going to be as try-hard and run-of-the-mill as you would normally expect in a league as competitive as the NPL, because basically, being the competitor that I am, I want to try to make it some fun this season and do my best with a team that would be considered by mostly everyone as subpar. So Scolipede is very good at supporting that type of team because it can pass speed to subpar mons, and it can also set up hazards for them, which could be very useful. It can run offensive sets very, very well. Scolipede is very threatening. Its coverage is quite good, surprisingly, and its power is not bad with the access to Swords Dance. So Scolipede is a pretty cool Pokemon, and it's definitely the center point of my team because it really can support my team the way it needs to be supported. So the next Pokemon I decided to draft is none other than Hoopa Unbound. Now, Hoopa is actually a Pokemon that I have constantly said is very overrated in the format, because for a while many leagues were banning it, and I did not agree with that at all because Hoopa is a Pokemon that is not too difficult to play around. It's not broken by any means, but I will say that, especially with Z moves, this thing is unwallable. It is absolutely... That's not to say that certain Pokemon can't switch in to a resisted hit, but it needs to kind of get lucky with a resisted hit. You know, it needs to switch in... A Fairy type needs to switch in on a Dark Pulse. A Dark type needs to switch in on a Psychic move. It's not easy for my opponents to successfully predict around Hoopa multiple times, and if I could set it up well, then I could put it in the position to not be easily played around, and that's what I am really trying to do this season. I really want to take Hoopa Unbound and make it into a major threat, because I have never seen Hoopa Unbound used to the point where I was like, wow, this Pokemon is really good in the format. I've always found it to be underwhelming, but me being the Omega one, the Brawlic one, I believe in myself to bring Hoopa to the promised land and new heights this season for NPL Season 7. So that is actually my Z Captain. We only get one Z move user this season, and mine is Hoopa because its coverage is just absolutely absurd. Why is this guy broken down right in front of me?
Bear right after 2 miles.
Sigh. I'm sorry about that, guys. Just gotta look out for a chance to... There we go. That was nice. Sorry about that. So, anyway, Hoopa is my Z Captain. Its coverage is absolutely absurd. So with the use of Z moves, it is just an absolute force to be reckoned with. We are allowed to use status Z moves, as long as they're not Omni boosting or Evasion boosting. So that is kind of cool. Hoopa does not have too many that are really great to speak of, but just to have those options could be kind of nice. But overall, the coverage that Hoopa gets plus Z moves is an absolute force to be reckoned with. So I'm definitely excited to use Hoopa this season. So for my third pick, I decided to go with none other than Crocodile. Reason being, Crocodile with... Crocodile's a Pokemon I've always wanted to try. I've seen many friends use it quite well, and it just seems like a Pokemon with a very good offensive and defensive typing for the format. But it also has some pretty interesting tricks. It can go offensive, it can go bulky. It's one of the better rockers in the format. It has access to things like Taunt and Pursuit, which are pretty nice support moves for the team. But then it also gets the move Power Trip, which I'm sure many of you know of, which can be abused with Speed Pass along with its own ability Moxie, as if I am knocking things out, which I should be with speed boosted Power Trips, then I will get more Power Trip boost plus the Moxie attack boost, which is pretty ridiculous in my opinion. Obviously it's something that people know about, but that doesn't mean that it's easily stopped. So it's something that people always really need to prepare for, because Crook could pretty much sweep any team that's unprepared with that set, especially because stored power can be blocked or walled by dark types, whereas Power Trip cannot be completely stopped by any type because there is no dark immunity. So going on to my next pick, I decided to go with Mega Blastoise because in my original draft plans I did not really have room for hazard removal, or very good hazard removal. So, or I shouldn't say, I didn't have room for multiple hazard removal mods is what I'm trying to say. So I decided to get one of the best hazard removers in the format by far, which is Mega Blastoise. It is very it is very hard to spin block. Almost choked on my gum there. It is very hard to spin block because it has access to basically a stab Dark Pulse with the ability Mega Launcher, and its coverage is just very, very nice, making it pretty easy to use, hard to switch into, and just a very reliable rapid spinner. So Mega Blastoise, we all know what it does, but that does not make it any less effective. So moving on to my next pick, number 5, I actually decided to go with Whimsicott because at this point I didn't really have room for another fairy, and I really needed a grass type in this slot. I was going to go with Celebi and then maybe get a fairy later on, but things did not work out so well. Celebi got sniped a little bit before me, so I decided to go with Whimsicott. It's not a great Pokemon by any means, especially in the 5th draft slot. You would expect to get something a little more powerful in that slot, but Whimsicott can be a very tricky Pokemon to deal with. Its defensive typing is quite good outside of the 4 times weakness to poison. But it gets a lot of nice tricks up its sleeve with its nice speed and prankster ability. So Whimsicott could definitely be useful for my team. Like I said, I really wanted a grass type in this slot, and it helped me take care of nabbing a fairy earlier rather than later. So
Turn right at the 4th exit onto Narrows
why
Road
is it
North.
still going? Sorry, let me just shut off my navigation here. I thought I did that a little earlier. Okay, we good. So, anyway, my 6th pick, I decided to go with a steel type, and Bronzong was around a little longer than I thought. I was initially going to go with something like Klefki or even potentially Klinklang because Klinklang, but unfortunately Klefki was not around, and because Celebi had gotten sniped, my team was looking a little bit weaker than I had originally desired for it to be. So I decided to go with Bronzong, just a reliable steel type with access to moves like Stealth Rock and Trick Room, which are very, very useful for my team. It has a nice defensive typing, 2 pretty solid abilities in both Levitate and Heat Proof, and yeah, Bronzong is just overall a solid Pokemon that could be a little more versatile than a lot of people give it credit for. So moving on to my 7th pick, I decided to go with I was initially going to go for Cofagrigus, but Jolt actually sniped me in that round, so I decided to go with Chandelure because I didn't really have room for a fire type outside of this slot, so I really wanted both a fire and a ghost type, so I figured why not go with Chandelure. Marowak was already taken, and I actually have a little bit of experience using Marowak. I like using new things or trying new things in all of my drafts, so I figured Chandelure would be something brand new for me to try. Everything so far is something I've never had on a team before outside of Whimsicott, and Bronzong actually. So after that, I decided to get Chandelure. Pretty powerful, dual stabs with Ghost and Fire, and amazing special attack, and pretty nice support moves in like Will-O-Wisp and Trick Room as well, another Trick Room setter. So continuing on, number 8, this is where things started to get a little bit fun. Well, not necessarily. This next pick, I was going to get Mesprit, which isn't really a meme Pokemon, but it is definitely not the best, and there were some bulkier Psychics I could have gone for, but I really just wanted Mesprit to give it a shot, but unfortunately it got sniped the pick right before me, so I decided to go with Cresselia. Now, Cresselia is a lot fatter than my liking. I'm not really into using bulky mons, especially in the format, but I really needed a bulky Psychic in this slot to check some powerful fighting types and whatnot. And Cresselia also gets access to Trick Room, which is very nice. It's kind of a theme of my team, if you guys have not picked up on that. And it also gets access to Lunar Dance, which is like a Healing Wish type of move. It's exactly like Healing Wish, and that's very useful for my squad. So now things start to get fun. My 9th pick rather, I decided to go with the god, the old man, known as Drampa. Now, Drampa is a new dragon type introduced in Generation 7. If you guys are not familiar with it, it's quite the interesting Pokemon. Normal dragon type, it's the first to have that type, so it's very unique in that regard. It's very powerful makes 135 special attack, and its coverage is absolutely incredible. So Drampa can definitely run some really cool sets that may catch my opponents off guard this season. So I'm really looking forward to trying out Drampa, because it's got okay bulk, passable bulk, and just ridiculous power. Combined with stuff like Trick Room, it really could be a massive threat. So then number 10, I decided to tribute to Joey Pokeaim and draft one of my, not necessarily favorite new mons, but one of the most hilarious new mons that I love to use, because it just has very few switch-ins, even though it is not a very good Pokemon by any means. And I decided to go with Crabominable, the ice fighting type, just a godly offensive typing with a hilarious design and amazing dual stabs in close combat, and Ice Hammer, which can be boosted by Iron Fist, making it basically an ice type close combat. So really, really powerful Pokemon. Definitely excited to use this thing. It could put in a lot of work under Trick Room, and it's not it isn't bulky. It's kind of frail for a Pokemon that's slow, but it's not that frail to the point where it can never take any hits. So if it's firing off a hit, it's going to be doing a lot of damage, probably getting a kill. So it should be a Pokemon that I would have fun using, and I'm definitely excited to try to make that silly old crab work. So for my very last pick, I just decided to grab, I wanted one more fast Pokemon, one more Stealth Rocker, a Pokemon that has access, or could be a decent choice Pokemon, and has access to some kind of nice moves like Tailwind and Taunt. And I decided to go with Archeops. At this point in the draft, I still had, I don't know, maybe like 14 points left, and I just decided to go with Archeops, which was only about 5 points, because I really wanted to have a bunch of points left over just to show that, maybe I could win and make a nice run with a kind of a meme team, a pseudo meme team, if you will, and that is exactly what I'm planning to do. So overall, we have Scolipede, Hoopa Unbound, Crocodile, Mega Blastoise, Whimsicott, Bronzong, Chandelure, Cresselia, Drampa, Crabominable, and Archeops. So very, very fun looking team. It definitely has a lot of nice tricks up its sleeve, that is for sure, and that's what I like about it the most, because even though it is probably the worst team in the league by a decent margin, it is not a team that could be completely slept on, especially with someone who possesses the talent like myself, Matty Brolic, aka Matty Omega, leader of the Bullet Punch Club, if you will. So with that being said, that will wrap up my NPL Season 7 draft analysis. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, this quickly improv video in my car. I hope you're looking forward to this season, because I know I am. It's definitely going to be some fun with this team. And yeah, the NPL is about to get exposed by my meme team, because let's face it, the NPL compared to me is a big old meme. So with all that being said, have a good night. Mwah. Bang.